Bartail has been one of the persons who's watched all the shows. I talk to him on a regular basis in the EverQuest Next IRC channel.
What we saw with, Kunark for EQ2, you did those 400 quests, you did all the content, and at the end of it, the world wasn't changed.
Yeah, I'm Phantom X. I do social media and write articles for EQ Nexus.
For the Fall of Bastion, there was a very definite, okay, this is where your story is going to fit into the world.
Listen, fluffy looking bear. Thank you. Listen, I went and I killed a dragon, and then 2 drops of whiskey hit my face, and I willed this manly beard into cow was raising. Yes.
Hello and welcome to EverCast episode number 72, which we have titled the social side of MMOs Part 1. I am one of your regular weekly normal hosts, Tanlin. With me are our 2 other regular weekly normal hosts, Vladis and Kyles. The EverCast show is a online MMO and gaming podcast, connecting gamers with the game they play. We talk about all things fun and exciting that you can find online to play. And when we can, we try to bring the conversation back to EverQuest Next. Hi, guys. Sorry that we were out last week. We were having some vocal issues, and if you listen really carefully, my voice is still not back to 100%. But hi guys, how are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I am also losing my voice a little bit, so forgive the scratchy whiskey kind of sounding voice over here.
Yeah, we kind of exchanged terms. So we both have
Ew. Ew.
We also are having a bit of internet difficulties on Vladis's end still, and we might have some on my end too. Apologies for that. We'll try to get do it the best that we can. Vladis thinks I'm lying, and I'm glad that he brought that up, or excuse me, that Sarg thought that I was lying. I'm glad that you brought it up because one of the things that I did when I was sick and I lost my voice. So after the show 2 weeks ago on Sunday night, Vladis had to take over at the end of the show because my voice was really starting to go out. I woke up on Monday morning to go into work, and because I wake up before anybody else in the house wakes up to go to work, I didn't talk to anybody. So it wasn't until that I actually got to work that I realized that it wasn't just that my voice was starting to go, it was completely gone. I have never had anything like that happen before, where there's no pain, there was no fever, I didn't really feel sick, I didn't really scream my head off or anything like that. I just went to work and tried to talk and nothing came out. So I'm going to play. This is what it sounded like. Hi, everybody. This is Tanlin trying to talk normal. Hi, everybody. This is Tanlin trying to talk. And I am so not joking. That's not me trying to be funny. That is me just trying to talk normal.
Oh, please. If any of the cast members are going to be like, oh, hey, let's not play the show. Let's not do the show for football. It's going to be me. I'm going to be the one that's like, no, I'm not doing the show because football. I will be the one that says no for football, not the husband. Not the husband. Tanlin doesn't do that. You're not. I'm sorry, not the real life husband.
I didn't mean
and
that.
Not the show husband, because you know that I'm married to both of them. Vladis is my show husband, and Tanlin is my real husband.
Even the dog's over here groaning. Yes. I went into work on Monday, and then on Tuesday, I called in sick. I didn't go back in. And it's funny is because my boss was like, yeah, I was expecting that you were going to call. So Vladis, how about you? How have you been?
Been okay. The internet's been here and there. Comcast, I've contacted Comcast and we've tested it thoroughly for hours, and they're just like, I don't see a problem. We could send a tech out, but it's going to cost you. And I'm like, I really don't want to pay you to come out here because it's going to be. But I may have to have them come out because something's wrong. Even though it says I'm getting like 10 megs up, or 9.5 to 10 megs up, somewhere within that range. I'm used to getting 10 to 12 right in there, or sometimes almost 15, which is really good. Now I'm lower than that. Something went wrong, and it wasn't like that a couple weeks ago. So, if you want to help me out, folks in chat, by all means, tweet at Comcast. Tell me.
Comcast sucks.
Yeah, I tweet at Charter all the time. Depending on where I'm at, my phone gets upload speed than my home internet, and I've hey Charter, I would like to stream more. I would like to do more with the upload broadband, but I can't because you don't support it. But that's a conversation for me and them. So we'll try and get through the show with our shoddy internet connection.
So I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV a lot.
I knew it was coming up.
Woo!
I have a chocobo, and I have a fat chocobo, and I have a unicorn, and I have a Moogle. I have a Moogle in game, and then I have a Moogle on the shelf behind me, a real Moogle. Yeah, and I might have ordered a white mage chocobo plush to go on my shelf, maybe. I totally did.
She's gonna need another shelf.
I did that.
You should get on that.
Gonna need a bigger boat.
Right.
Hey, I went through and literally got rid of probably 100 or more stuffed animals, and then told the husband, and look at his face, he's like, yeah, really. I only collect them if they come from a video game now. There's 3 exceptions to that rule. The one that his brother got me that's dressed in a U.S. Marine uniform. My dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, Toothless. I don't give a shit that he's not technically originally from a video game. It's Toothless. Screw you. And then the polar bear that he got me. What?
Nothing.
What?
I'm saying the last one, that other random place.
I have things throw at you. Don't tempt me. I have a stock. I have that, Uniro.
I wanted to also bring up the fact that normally there are 4 of us. Tonight there are only 3 of us. Lucy is also currently working on internet. Her internet in her new place does not support anything really from her words.
It doesn't look like this is really here, like so fuzzy.
All right, so go ahead, Flatus. I was just gonna switch
I got
over to
nothing.
ECast news.
Anyway,
Yeah.
The reason why she's playing Final Fantasy XIV is because of me. By the way, if you want to come play Final Fantasy XIV with us, we're on the Fanfrit server. Just come find us. We have a free company over there. The more people, the better.
I don't know what he's talking about. He hasn't played with me since I started playing.
It's hard. I work nights, and then on top of it, my internet's been so shitty.
True. Shinter's been playing with me though. Sort
Yeah.
of. Kind of.
You're almost there though. Are you 30 yet?
Uh-huh.
Alright, so you're gonna lock your weight soon enough.
Yeah, she was talking about that the other day.
So I've been talking about it all day today. I'm gonna be a white mage. I'm gonna be a white mage.
All right, ECast news. The TwitchCon, the first annual, or actually I haven't said if it's going to be annual or not, but the inaugural TwitchCon happened over the weekend. Not a whole lot of gaming announcements, but there's a little bit that we'll talk about in just a few minutes coming out from TwitchCon. The big thing is that obviously you're here watching live on Twitch, perhaps. You might be also following along with us on YouTube. And one of the things that Twitch announced at TwitchCon is that they're going to now support uploading videos from your computer into Twitch, into your channel, which is what YouTube, I mean, that's what YouTube does. You upload videos. And then in Twitch used to be that you streamed and then you could highlight. And now it seems that both websites are kind of trying to fill out how they're going to do what the other thing does. So YouTube is getting into streaming, and Twitch announced that they're going to allow videos to be uploaded. This is kind of might be a big deal. If you're watching us on YouTube later on, I have a question for you that you can email me directly or email the show. That there's a lot of things that I do after the show that I have to do twice. I have to basically duplicate my work. I do it once on Twitch, and then I do it once for YouTube. And if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. Which means that, like, would it bother you if you had to come to Twitch to watch the highlight of the show, the whole show? If that would bother you, then I could probably still just upload it well, it's not even uploaded. Twitch is really easy to integrate it. I hit like one button and it exports it. That's not the issue. The issue is like basically getting the show description. I have to do it twice. So yeah, that was it for that. Hey Flatus, what is it? Star Wars Battlefront. Are you gonna play it when it comes out?
Yeah. Probably.
All right. Right before the show, GameSpot put out an article that the Star Wars Battlefront beta date is October 10th, I think. Let me get that link. It's like the 10th, or it's the 8th through the 10th. 8th through the 12th, my bad. But it's going to be open to everybody. So if you want to try out the game, there's your chance. It's a free trial. And we were talking just before the show that this reminds me a lot of what games used to do, like back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that you could go to like the game store and you could spend like $5 and you would buy a demo disc. And that's how I actually got exposed to StarCraft for the first time, because I spent like the $5 because I was just a teenager, and they're like, there's the demo copy of the game. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I got to get the whole retail version of it because I want to play it more. And so I think that Star Wars Battlefront is kind of, like, hey, you know what? Here's your free trial version. And if you want to play when the game comes out, go buy the full retail version. And then, of course, we do the countdown to WildStar going free to play. It goes free to play on Tuesday. I believe it was the 29th, which is 2 days from now. It's Tuesday. And you can get all of your kick-ass level up, Buttercup. All of that exciting stuff. Okay, so one of the things coming out from StarCraft, or from TwitchCon, in regards to StarCraft II, is that they put out, it's not really a cinematic trailer, it's more of just a lore story trailer. And I'll link it here in just a second, but it's the first time in like hearing My Life for Ire that really, instead of just being some random battle cry that the Protoss say when you're playing them, like all of a sudden My Life for Ire totally means something different to me now. And this video that I'll link kind of, it
makes you have feels.
Yeah, and it's not like the cinematic. It's a different art style, more of I don't know, I would say Flash-based cartoon. But it's really good, and so I'll link it here in a second, and you can watch it after the show. So I want to turn it over to Flatus for Final Fantasy 3.1 news before we get to our final special thanks, and then on to our main topic.
Sweet.
The Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy 14. Over at Tokyo Game Show announced the 3.1 title of the new patch is called As Goes Light, So Goes Darkness, which is rare because they don't normally have like a 3-thing name. This is the first time they've ever done a title where it goes As Go Light, So Goes Darkness. It's one of the largest patches they've done, or they're adding. It adds a new game to play for Lords of Verminion. It adds all new content, storyline, 24-man raid, bunch of old, like adding stuff to older content, a bunch of new hard mode dungeons. So a slew of content is coming out. So should be fun. Also, it's adding the free company, explore the islands and go with your guild and go kill giant monsters for open boss raid kind of loot. So everyone go hop on your company airship and fly around those islands and go do stuff together. Should be fun.
Yep. All right. So before we get turned over to our the main topic, the social side of gaming, I want to throw out a special thanks to Saga of Lucimia and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, the developers there, because they interacted with us in our Twitter conversation over the last 2 weeks. And that was really cool of them because, again, we're playing the games, they're making the games. So it's nice to have that two-way communication to understand what they're thinking and they can understand what we're thinking. All right, social side of gaming. I was writing up a preface or thinking about a preface, like how do we broach the topic? And it's always, you know, the question formed in my mind, what type of gamer are you? How do you take control of your gaming experience? And the reason why that I wanted to start with it there is because we focus on MMOs because for the most part, that's what the three of us plays. If Lucy was here, same with her. We play MMOs or multiplayer games over solo player games, even though we have the availability for both. You know, just remove the whole requiring internet, or like if you're playing a subscription game, those monthly fees, you know, take those away, and we have a choice of playing a game of like The Last of Us or any of the BioShock games that are Dragon Age. Some of my friends are huge into those games, but they're not into the MMOs, whereas I'm the opposite. So that is where I wanted to start the conversation and turn it over to Kylest and Flatus, and of course, if you're following along in the chat room, answer that question to us, and because I want to see the results. Why MMOs? And how do you take control of what type of social interactions you have while you're playing the game?
I'd sort of like to say that he's kind of sort of wrong-ish. If I had a PS4, I would not be sitting in front of my computer as often, because the kind of games that I really like are like Tekken. But I don't like playing the old ones because they're not as pretty as the new ones. If I'm going to play it, it's going to be pretty.
But you've never asked for like Mortal Kombat Tex or the Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, Street Fighter.
I don't like Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat is kitschy and icky, and I played it anyways. I was playing that game, actually. But I don't go around asking you, hey, babe, will you get me a PS4? Because, like, I totally want one. Yeah.
You could buy one yourself, or you could, you know. I'm just saying that well, okay, well then how do you take control of your gaming experience? How do you...
Okay, maybe it's sort of split for me then 50-50. Why don't we just call it split 50-50? Because maybe that's a little bit more fair. Maybe I say that right now because the only game that's really holding my attention is Final Fantasy at this time.
Which you can also play on you can also play that on a PS4, by the way.
I know.
do you play that on is it a shared server? Like there's no difference between the PS4 servers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all I play with people cross server.
I had people asking me, "Are you playing a PS4 or a PC?" And I was like, "What?" What?
I was so I can understand in FPS games why you keep them separate, because you wouldn't want people going head to head because the PC players have a considerable advantage. But other than that, you know, why not?
In Final Fantasy, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because the mapping is done really well. As long as you know how to, if you map your controller right, there's no difference between anyone else. You won't know. The only difference is that they may not be able to use like a TeamSpeak if they don't have a laptop or something.
And I want to throw out there because I think it's kind of funny now that I go and I look back. When my coworkers were first talking me into playing an MMO, building a computer that could play Vanguard, right? And so, you know, we came into work and we talked about like, oh, I need this much RAM and I need this video card and blah 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 blah. And one of the things that I bought because I didn't know any better was a joystick. Because I thought that that's what I was going to need to play an MMO. I had no idea. And I'm like, what? I don't need the joystick to move forward? Like, how does that work?
So how do we take control of our games? Be a little bit more specific, because I want to make sure that I answer that the way that you mean it.
Well, right. Like, I guess I could answer that question or how I was thinking about it myself first. Like, I make no, it's not really a secret that the game that I currently play the most of is Warcraft. And I've mentioned before that I'm not exactly thrilled about playing Warcraft right at the moment. I think that this is the worst expansion that they've ever had, but I continue to play it. And the reason why is because it's what my real life friends are playing. And if I could get them to play anything else, we'd be playing that. But I can't get them to try out anything else. And so I feel like I'm kind of stuck in a rut. So take control of it, not necessarily exactly, you know, grabbing it or whatever, but that's how I choose when I play with them, and basically we organize and we structure it so that the things that I like doing in video games are met, right? And so I'm a social gamer, which is why I don't play solo player games. And I'm an organized player, which means that when I log on, there had better be other people who are logging on or have already logged on that are ready to do the same sort of activities that I am, because I don't want to, like, okay, when are we going to have fun now? When is the fun happening? Fun? We're here to have fun, and I'm not having any. So I could play just about any game as long as the people were telling me, okay, we need you on these dates and these times, and this is what we're going to do. And I'd be like, all right, sounds good, let's go. And as long as those conditions were met, I'd be happy playing pretty much any game.
Okay, well, I need you on Monday morning, Saturday morning at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're gonna go like kill some ghasts in Minecraft, and I expect you to be there because, you know,
games have
Minecraft.
To be pretty too.
And what?
Part 2.3.
Well, you have real friends that play that game.
And the games don't look pretty.
Doesn't matter. You said that all that matters is that you get to go when you're told what you need to do and when you need to do it.
I know. And then I added, another condition that the game has to be pretty. But
then come play Final Fantasy with us, because that game is fucking pretty.
I could. And one of my objections to Final Fantasy is that the low level stuff is so on the rails. There's
not any worse than Warcraft.
That's why I don't have to do any of that anymore ever again.
How many characters have you leveled recently in Warcraft?
That's a tangent. If you want to talk about characters that I have level like 30 or higher, probably 30 characters that I never have to go through the beginning stuff ever again.
Right, but how many times did you have to go through the beginning shit again to get to where you are right now? I mean, it's all totally on the rails. But I digress.
But I will say this though: you only have to do that low level stuff once in Final Fantasy XIV. One time, and you're done.
One time.
That's true. Maybe we need to talk about why one character who can do all the things is not the same as not having any alts. But that's like a tangent.
So, yeah, we can slide that over next week.
Yeah.
Or later, because it's really not.
Yeah.
that it's really not even on the same topic. I will throw out there that I do not see a character who's able to do all roles as the same as like, oh, you don't have to have any alts. It's like, nah, not really.
So how I take it, so I am a completely different gamer than he is. And let me preface this with if I have people in game that I genuinely like and enjoy hanging out with, then playing the game with them as opposed to playing by myself typically is more appealing. However, an amendment to that statement is I hate leveling with people. God, do I hate leveling with people. And I don't like questing with people. And it's not that I don't like hanging out with people and being social. It's that I want to take it at my own pace. I want to see the game in the pace that I want to see it at. And frankly, doing that socially 9 times out of 10 means I don't see it the way I want to see it because I'm seeing it the way they want me to see it.
I totally get that too, because that was one of the reasons why I got attracted to playing ArcAge for the first time, is that you could you could log into the game, and if I wanted to go run from where you start at in the game to like go see the big city, you could do that. And you could see it out over there in the background. And so it was like, oh, look, there's a castle in the background. I'm going to go run over there and I'm going to go look at it. And I was able to.
I'm genuinely just not a social gamer. And it's really funny because I'm a very social person. I love to sit down and I like to talk to people. But in my video games, present company excluded and a handful of other people, it's not my thing. Like, I usually log into a video game to be left the hell alone. Not to be annoyed by people that I don't know, that need me to explain the fight, that don't understand how to not stand in fire. It's kind of not my thing. Like, I don't want to be social in video games. It's not my digs. Just don't talk to me unless I know you really well. And then sometimes I still don't want to talk to you. It depends on who you are.
And Flatus.
Oh, me. I don't know. It just depends on the game. I find that certain games have more toxic environments, and I don't even want to use the word toxic because it's not. You can't always. What?
We talked about that a little bit before the show too, and you're right that at a certain point in time, game environment seems really toxic. But I don't know. I feel like they've really mellowed it out, and I don't think you agree.
I almost want to say it depends on server for certain games. We did mention that, like on my server on Warcraft, I talked about how they use a certain word and they add it to different items in the game, and I still get that in chat. And your mention was they still do that. Like, yeah, they still
right. Like, yes, I haven't seen anything like that. Like, I've seen other
tons
people,
of it.
I see people like. I don't know. They call it trolling or griefing or whatever, the trade chat channels, but I mean I've never really seen it.
But the thing is, like, when my whole server does it, I'm just like, this isn't trolling. This is just everybody's on that train.
I need to log into your server and see what it's like and see. And I would even say that, because we're talking about Warcraft obviously here, that I'm sure that there's also a difference between Horde and Alliance side server communities, because they have different feels to them as well.
I will say this real quick. I will say this. One things I do notice, because I do play a lot of MMOs, things do change from MMO to MMO. WildStar did have a pretty, like, it was midway. I would say it was somewhere between really nice when I first started playing it. I haven't tried it. Taylor probably have more about what to say in their trade chat versus what I could say about it. It didn't seem as bad. Final Fantasy XIV, people are just nice in that game. I mean, they're still assholes, you know. It's kind of like the real world. You can't really avoid people but in general, what I find in Final Fantasy is that people are super nice. They're helpful. If they notice, and one of the things that Final Fantasy does, if you're new to the game, they put like a little sprout, like a little, like tiny little leaf thing next to your name, so they know that you're new.
Jeez, that's what that was.
Yeah.
God damn it! Do you know how many people are like, I smell noob. We're gonna get a bonus.
Yep.
That explains so much.
It does. So people will ask you, like, do you need help? They explain fights. Other thing is that when people do that in game, you get commendations. Like Hylas was asking me about what the commendations do. And like, if you explain fights to people and help them out in dungeons, you can say like, hey, this person, here's a commendation. It's kind of like a pat on the head, but you get unlocks achievements and it gives you minions and mounts and stuff like that. So be nice and you get things.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, and League of Legends, like I keep meaning to check out League of Legends and get all the way up to level 20 so that I could check out the Tribunal, because that's their how they're trying to monitor and guide their community and develop community standards for behavior is using the Tribunal. And I mean, I like the idea of it. I love I just have never seen it implemented and would like to. So, all right. So this is part one of the social side of MMOs. We have part two that we're going to have next week, and we decided that we were going to divide it into two parts. The first part was going to be the mechanics that we all already know, which is pretty much dungeons and raids, and later on there's a couple other combat type mechanics that we can talk about, but it basically boils down to dungeons and raids. And then when we come back next week, we're going to finish up our social side of MMOs, a conversation with talking about non-combat type of group content, like how do you allow for large groups of people to log into your game and have a good time that doesn't involve basically violence. And I'm going to throw it out there that one of the first things I learned in creative writing is that a story is always about a conflict and how it resolves. And if you're a talented artist, you can leave cliffhangers and so the conflict doesn't resolve. But it's always about that drama exists when conflict occurs. And so if there's no conflict, there's no real story. And so I'm always aware of that type of thing when I talk about like non-combat gameplay. I just want to, I don't know, kind of go out on a tangent there a little bit. That can we have other types of conflict that can be resolved without that? We'll see. Because I think that we have some ideas, and we've seen ideas in other games. So dungeons and raiding. We got so much feedback on this topic. It was incredible. That's why we had to split it up into two parts, because there's just so much to go over. When we talked about dungeons and raids, we were looking at some of the feedback about the issues that people have with that type of content, and the type of issues that people mentioned when it comes to dungeons and raiding, fear of failure, expectation of performance, time commitments to be involved in that sort of activity. That's time commitments in terms of scheduling, and time commitments in terms of like grinding. And then the lack of meaningful play, i.e. that logging in to do the activity isn't necessarily fun. So And I think that Lucy and I both answered the question well, I'll throw it out there, that when I am trying new things in a video game, it doesn't matter what MMO, I don't run with random strangers to do stuff I've never done before, because I feel like there's a certain level of performance I'm expected to do, and if I fail that, I just don't want to deal with failing. In a group. I'd rather fail with friends that I know that you know, I can be like, my bad, oops, and they're like, forgive and forget and move on. And I feel that like if I disappoint strangers, that they're more likely to turn that into damn noob, learn, you know, L2P.
See, and that's the environment that I'm talking about. That's right. Toxic.
But at the same time, like, that's a fear. I don't know if it's necessarily substantiated anymore.
It's totally substantiated.
I would also say it depends on the person, because that you get that one asshole. Like sometimes you get that person who plays that class. Like They may be running like a different job or an alt, and they may play the class like normally what you're playing, and they may whisper you like, "Hey, listen, what's your rotation?" And so, see, that's a helpful person. By saying "Good job, noob" is not helping you. It doesn't help you say, "Hey, listen, don't stand in that." Hey, not fighting or hey, robots.
Yep, man, you're fighting robots over there. No, I get it that when I fail. Or when I see other people fail, actually, it really depends on how I feel. I either don't say anything or I give them constructive feedback. If I don't say anything, then I have two options. I either complain about it to Kai Lest, or which I often do. But at least I don't.
He doesn't tell them learn to play noob. He tells me that noob needs to learn to play.
Yeah, but but that's why.
But there's a difference between saying it to your wife and not hurting that player's feelings.
That's called
saying
venting.
It to that, huh?
It's called venting. When I tell you, I am simply venting. I'm frustrated a little bit. I need to let off a little bit of steam, and so I vent it to you because you understand my pain.
Unless I am the reason that you were venting, and there has been those days too. Just like yesterday, I was playing. Oh my God, Final Fantasy! Holy crap! I wasn't playing Warcraft. I was playing Final Fantasy, and some guy with a frickin' gun, like, spread shot everywhere. And I was like, dude, Huntards, they're in this game too.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but there is something with hunters / rangers in every single game. I don't know what it is, but it literally is. Like, there's the ranger, and they're doing something that will cause us all to die.
It happens.
So Flatus, how about you though? Do you just jump right into new content with people you don't know?
I'm a risk taker.
Me too. You know why? Do you know why Flatus and I are both willing to do that? I bet you money I know why Flatus and I are both willing to do it, and you aren't.
Why is that?
We're tanks. You're not.
I leveled my first MMO I leveled the first time in Warcraft all the way to the top level at the time as a tank. So I have.
That was what expansion?
Does it mean I'm not?
Do you still play? When was the last time you tanked anything?
I've leveled multiple tanks to max level. Don't say I'm not a tank.
You're not a tank.
This is slowly becoming also side of MMOs. Telling Tanner what he can't make.
And this is the social side of MMOs when you end up living with other gamers.
Living?
Well, I just want to, if you're, partner or, girlfriend or just roommate.
Roommate, yeah.
Wife.
The reason why I jump in there is because I stand my ground. If someone's just gonna come at me, first of all, I don't. The reason why, I would say that I try to avoid things like raid anxiety and joining people. It's not so much that my performance. If I fail, it's because I didn't research my class. I went in there. If I'm completely new, the first thing I say, "Hey guys, I'm new to this. If we fuck up, it's on me. Let's get that out of the way now." I just tell them right off the bat. I'm not gonna be afraid as long as I go in there and say, "Hey, listen, I'm kind of new at this, and if someone's if there's any tips or there's something let me know now. That way, if I fuck up, then we know hey, no problem. I got it next time. I saw what you meant. There's 3 lines in the ground. I void those. Gotcha." It happens. I've died in dungeons, pulling things, and I've been "Oh, that's what he does." Got it, guys. Now I know what to do. No problem. Won't die the second time. So it happens. I try to avoid, and if anybody in there is being a jerk, I'm at the point where it's he can leave, not me. If everybody else is okay with it and has explained the fight to me, and I continuously suck, then there's something wrong on my end. Then I'll be like, hey guys, I'm gonna leave because clearly I'm not cut out for this. I gotta go do some research and figure out my class a little bit more, hit up the training dummy. But I mean, for running with friends, yes. I think that I have a better time, but that's also how you make friends, right? How do you fill a guild in a game? Like you make friends in the game. Like eventually, I mean, you know, not all your friends are gonna all want to play the same MMO as you, or they all move on, or they quit gaming, or they just switch because they have kids and they're just like, I don't have time for that. And then, like, how do you make friends? You got to eventually meet the people in the game you play that you share the same interest with. So I could sit there and take social anxiety, because regardless of if I'm in my house or out in the public, you're going to have some form of social anxiety. I would think I would have less of it playing the same game as everyone else, because at least we have that one common thing to talk about. Where at work or out in public, you're just like, you like football? Yeah, sports ball's good. I like the sports ball. Where here, I'm just like, yeah, hey, did you guys see that thing that happened? Like, or what did you think of the? Am I robots? Tell me I'm robots at any point to say robots.
No, you're not. You're sounding.
So I try to keep it light and keep it like, I know if I'm good, if I know if I'm bad. I just tell them like, hey, listen, if somebody's gonna just be a dick, then they're gonna be a dick, and they can go fucking suck a bucket of dicks.
A whole bucket.
Yeah, a whole bucket. Like, I try not to do that. Like,
my girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
Yep. So.
In a row?
I don't have that sound clip. I may have
so
to.
glad that you guys knew what I was doing.
Yep.
So glad.
Of course.
Otherwise, do you know how weird that would have been if I was, like, the only person that understood that reference? Like, seriously? Yeah.
Somewhere on that shelf behind
awful.
me, rather than that shelf or in my closet, I had the complete transcript of Mallrats and Clerks.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the comments that we got on one of our questions, I'm going to look it up real quick. It was from Chuena, and it was about. From Chewy. Here it is. One of his frustrations with building the social aspect of playing an MMO, and that's what we were just talking about, right? Is making it fun and joining in with new people. That's what I was getting to. Joining in with new people. And one of the problems that we have with joining in to play new MMOs with people is the learning curve, the progression to it, whatever you want to call it. Basically, what it comes down to is that this is from my own personal experience, why I only played Arcade briefly, and then I'm like, you know what? I can't really get into it. And that is because I wasn't max level. And so I was going to have to invest hours, maybe a week or 2 weeks of gameplay on a regular basis to be able to get to a level where I can contribute and jump in and be part of a social interaction, because people that have been playing for 6 months, they're already way ahead of me. And so there's that catch up. And Chewy pointed out that they need to find a better way of creating that so that you're not basically waiting around for people to catch up. It's basically the progression, and I want to talk a little bit about that. There's progression in terms of level and gearing, and then there's progression involved in the story. And I'm sorry, when I jump into a new MMO, not if it's because I play these games to be social. I want to say, what is everybody else doing? What type of group activities are they involved in that I can be involved with right now? And then if I have a good time doing that, then I'll go back and I'll look at the story. But the story is never the hook. Never has been, never will be. If I want a story, I can read a book, read a graphic novel, watch a movie, turn on a TV show or anything like that. But my MMO game playing time is limited for my social interaction, what I want to be doing first and foremost. So the whole notion of progression, is it good? Is it bad? Is it worthwhile? Anybody?
Bueller.
I get it. I'm just thinking.
I don't like it, and that's like we try to turn the conversation about to EverQuest Next where we can, and that's one of my favorite parts about EverQuest Next is that they're promising us. Well, I don't want to use the word promising. That their game design that they've been expressing to us is that you should be able to log in and play with your friends from the first day that you log in, and I'm all for that. I want to throw out, and Kailas is gonna come back at me with that line about, well, if you like Eve so much, why don't you go play it? That Eve Online allows you to join in on group dynamics probably like a day or two after you first log in. And then I also want to point out that like Guild Wars 2, like I logged into that, and that's the same thing. Like if you want to run around in World versus World with an organized group at level 10, you can. You're not exactly the most effective fighter, but you can still participate. You're not excluded by design from being able to.
Which is...
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask him, well, if you like Eve so much, why aren't you playing it?
I might...
But right now, why are you not playing Eve? And don't tell me it's a money issue, because I know that's not the case.
The answer is because the gameplay isn't fun. We're talking about all these other things. At least there's no progression. Like if I know that the end game activities of EVE Online probably aren't going to be fun for me because I have the opportunity to see them like right out, like a week after joining in. I'm like, oh, this is fleet ops. We stand around and stare at a gate, making sure nobody flies through. Or mining ops. Oh, that's fun. Let's go shoot some asteroids out of the sky for hours.
No progression equals no funds.
I don't. And that's what Guild Wars 2, they're trying to like
the 10-man raids or whatever.
Well, they're when they come out with their next expansion, they're not raising the level cap.
You don't need to at the end of the day, you don't need to raise a level cap for content. Content can be as little as feeling progression for your character, right? I like in any game. If WoW didn't increase the level cap, as long as they made like the new weapon system made that seem like that's how you progress your character, that's fine. As long as there's something to do when you log in, that's a good time. That's my biggest gripe with this new expansion, because there's nothing to do when you log in unless you just log in to do your little Facebook game version of the garrison. There isn't. You can get all the gear in your garrison. You don't have to raid. There is no point to log in. They took out. Remember when we were sharing the spreadsheets of what BC rating was like versus what rating is now?
I was supposed to have those.
Yes, you were. And I can get them for you. I'm sorry.
Maybe we'll take a look at that at the beginning of next week's show.
Sure.
That's one of the things we did when we were talking about item progression for being able to partake in raids is basically looking at like how many different pathways it was to get gear to be able to participate in raids, because for every hoop that you have to join in or you have to go through in order to participate, that's another filter of excluding people.
But
I mean, go ahead.
If you look at it and totally break it down, the average player doesn't play because of their friends or their guild, because their guild is just another friends list. They're like, so if I kill that boss, then I get like that loot, and then if I kill that boss, like then I can get that loot, and then my eye level is totally gonna be like this, and then like I'm gonna be able to do like that with DPS. And like nobody gives a shit about social aspects of rating.
I don't know though, because I listen to a lot of WoW podcasts, and a lot of them say the only reason they still play WoW right now is because of their people online. It's not the game itself, it's not the gear, it's the people that they log in and share the game with. At the end of the day, I mean, not to say that gear and stuff like it. I mean, those are nice. Like at the end of the day, yeah, I would love nice gear sets. I love rating for the aspect of maybe getting a mount and getting the gear. But half the time, I mean, like you can't complete half that crap without having somebody there. And most of those great times come with sharing. Like, when was the last time that you were in a guild and you downed a boss, like a really hard raid boss, and it was pulled out of your ass like that? Like, you half the raid was wiped. You had 3 mages, 1 healer, half a tank with
Tuesday.
Dude, yeah, and then you finally down the guy, and you hear screams because everyone's like, "Holy shit, we just pulled that!"
You want to know what I screamed about, right? Is because I was one of the people that died, and I was expecting us to wipe on it because I wanted to be alive for our first kill on that boss. But no, they didn't wipe on the boss. They killed him. And so I had to be like, oh, great, congrats, guys. I'll be over here lying dead on the floor. And I was also really upset with myself because I died early in the fight. And so I spent not just like the end of the fight dead on the ground. I spent most of the fight dead on the ground. So
no.
So I was
Did you stand in fire?
No, I forget what killed me. I don't think it was necessarily my fault. I think that it just happened. But I want to point out the other thing, that the reason that we were able to down that boss was because we had overgeared people who were with us. Because there's the top tier of raiding in Warcraft, and then there's the next tier down, and we're doing the next tier down stuff with people who have gear from the next tier up.
Getting carried in those, raids.
I'm one of the people. I'm one of the people carrying.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not raiding right now, is because I'm geared for the next one up, and I'm doing a little bit of the carrying.
I want to say this because I actually brought up that little that flow chart from Burning Crusade. I still don't see where you do this in WoW today, where you hit 70, you get your flying mount, you do the Karazhan key quest. That's a key quest. You have to get a key to get in the raid. You have to do a quest. Not only that, you have to get revered with Cenarian Expedition, the Kolfang Reservoir Heroic Key, then you have to do the revered the Shatar, then the Tempest Heroic Key, you have to do the revered with Lower City, then you have to get the Akadon Heroic Key. Like, you have to do all these things and go, and you do it all of it, right? To get to the end, to go all the way to the Sunwell. And you feel accomplished doing those things. Like, you feel like every day there's something to do. Like, all right, today, what am I logging in to do? All right, I have to get my Tempest Keep Heroic Key. So that's what I'm going to go work on today. Like, it's not like, oh, what I'm going to do today? I got to log in my garrison and check those fucking missions out. Oh, got a piece of gear, guys. One less thing we got to do in the raid.
Hold on. I have to ask, because, like, this blows my mind. You actually enjoyed logging in to work to get a fucking key to raid?
Yeah, I did. Because it was something that I felt progressed towards. Every little piece of gear, everything I did felt like this big thing. Like, if it was so important for me to do, I wouldn't have done it. Like, if I didn't feel it was important, I wouldn't have done it. But it felt important. It felt like I needed to do these things. It felt like I was achieving these goals, right? Like, I know, like, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, it was work, but it didn't feel like work to me. It felt like I was this character who was joining his friends that were doing these things. Like, all right, guys, you want to go run Hellfire Citadel? I need to go get the key. Sure thing. And then, like, when that one guy got the key, he let you in the back way of Karazhan. We're like, let's all sneak in. Like, you know, sometimes it happens like that, but it was fun regardless. Like, you put in this work to get something. It's not like you get anything out of it.
Domo arigato.
As you're dropping out, I will throw in there that I actually did kind of enjoy, not necessarily the hoops that I had to jump through, but like logging in and having the daily dungeon and the weekly raid. And the weekly raid was old raids, but at the same time you were getting points or currency of some form to be able to buy current gear. So it kept that old content fresh enough to, and they kept it for Mists of Pandaria, but also, and we're spending way too much time talking about Warcraft.
I use in Final Fantasy XIV if you want.
Oh well, you know what?
But even then, right?
Guild Wars 2 does something like that, where it gives you daily objectives. Like, you log in and it tells you, you know, go capture 5 of these and go look at 10 of these and do this and this, and you get a reward, your daily reward.
I guess I'm weird. I don't like video games telling me what I need to be doing. I don't like a game telling me how to have fun. I want to
Yes.
log in and go do the shit that I want to do and not have the game say, well, if you want this, here's a carrot on a stick, go do this, this, and this before you can have it. Ha 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 ha.
And
Sorry.
so yeah, we get lost too much in there, but so just yay or nay. Let's take an example of a game with heavy progression, heavy like steps to take, and compare it to a game where you can log in and participate in a group within like the first week. Which would you rather have?
Run that question by me one more time.
Guild Wars 2 or Warcraft or Final Fantasy, does that have gear tiering?
It does.
Mention. All right, so
it does.
I would much rather log into a game and be able to play with my friends, even though I was like way behind them. I was still able to do what they were doing.
I think I can in Final Fantasy. I think Addons is actually able to play with me, even though he's considerably higher level than I am.
Yep.
Somebody pointed out that PlanetSide is also a good example of that. You can log in and run around with an outfit the day that you log in, even though you have, I think it's 200 certs is the cap that you can spend, even though you don't have any certs spent.
And you know what? I suck ass at PlanetSide, but it is so much fun to be able to log in with some friends and talk some serious shit and get the crap blown out of you and be like, dude, I really sucked, but that was so much fun. That's my kind of social game. That's the kind of game that I like to be social in. That's not an MMO. That's my kind of social game. Hugs to you, new nerd. Why is he hugging me? I'm not totally a nerd.
I don't think that was to you.
Fine. Don't hug me, nerd.
I was going to say that I have clips from my World versus World from Warcraft, the World PvP. I have some videos, and that was actually my first experience with organized content. Was even before I was raiding, and that's why I like Guild Wars 2, and that's one of the things that I loved the most about Warcraft. It had very little to do with story or raiding. It was just running around and killing stuff and doing stuff like that. Now, I have developer tools in there, and I threw under developer tools something that's not quite developer tools, but that's add-ons. And that's the tools that encourage or support social interaction. And we're talking the looking for raid tools, the looking for dungeon tools. I think that almost every game has them now. Like Guild Wars has, like you can sign up and look for fractal dungeon queues. Which do you prefer? Did you prefer it back in the old days where you had to look for people, like stand around and trade chat saying, hey, looking for tank? Or do you like the anonymous aspect of it, that the game just matches you up with someone and off you go?
I like the game matching me up, buddy, and off with you go.
I don't know. I kind of like... I had more people join guilds the other way, and... You start with very, like, let's say if you had a guild or a group of people you ran with, but you're always like missing one person, you could befriend somebody that may not have a guild. The next thing you know, bang, you got a guild. You have friends. You start, like, I don't mind the the being able to queue, but I also like the ability to stay in town and be like, hey, I'm looking for a tank for this, and like, so eventually, I remember when Wrath was out, you still did that. You were in town saying, hey, listen, I'm looking to do a couple dungeons, just need a tank or need a mage or whatever. Or
what's your eye level? What's your experience?
Oh, hated that. That's where it turned.
Link your achievement. Link your achievement.
Link your achievement, bro.
Link your achievement. Link your achievement. The downfalls. It became so bad. Like, instead of it becoming I need the tank, it became like, what's your eye level? People started paying attention to eye level and like, what's your DPS at? Show me your DPS screen. I was like, fucking add-ons.
Yeah.
So that's when it turned.
I totally agree. I would like more of the social aspect of it, but that's what keeps me like caught in the middle of it, is because, like I said, I don't like failing with friends, especially, or excuse me, I don't like failing with strangers, especially when they're asked, you know, like prove that you can do what we're asking you to do, and I'm like, man, come on. But on the other hand, I think that the anonymous LFR tools just make it so that, like, I've seen all of, oh, I get to see it's story mode. Tell me the story. Let me just go walk on through it. Oh, eventually we'll get through. That's why I would rather do, like, I would rather just fail with friends than try and meet up with strangers, even though ideally I would like to be a little bit more social and be able to walk into new events or experiences with strangers and not have that like expectation. I think that what it comes down to is people don't like wasting their time or feeling like, you know, hey, we're trying to do this thing, but because of this one mistake, we lost all of this time and now we have to start all over.
And, you know, I haven't ran into that at all so far. Granted, I'm not, you know, I'm just 30 or 31 in Final Fantasy, but I haven't ran into anybody that was a dick yet. Everybody's been super helpful. I know there's going to be some. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't have the impression that this is like the perfect freaking MMO world, but I've ran into far less. Like, I've ran into 0 people that were being a-holes. 0.
Yeah, like I said, it tends to be over there, and that in a world where like this game came to be, like there's just a lot more helpful people. I don't know where it's coming from. Like I don't know why they are so, like, why the community over there is so different. And it could just be, well, one thing, there's no add-ons. So one thing is, like, if somebody is looking for somebody, they're not asking your eye level, they're not asking achievements. There's no add-ons there, so there's no DPS meters. There's like they'll know if you're doing bad TP, because if the boss has a DPS check and you're trying to burn things down and you ain't doing it, they're gonna be like, all right, well, you know, what's your rotation? They may ask you those things.
Yeah, I think I might have killed a raid group because I didn't have an add-on installed. No, literally, like, it was a progression raiding group that one of my friends, like, when they were missing a person, they would invite me to come along with them, right? And so, once the new raid came out, I got invited to come along full time, and I came along full time, and I'm one of those people that I will add the add-ons that I like, and I don't like other people telling me what I have to have. And they had, like, gotten to a particular fight that I had never seen before, and I died to an easy mechanic because it was the first time I saw it, and the raid leader flipped his shit and said, you need to get this add-on, and then the raid group never raided again. Might have been just him being overly, like, frustrated with some other stuff, but that's pretty much what it happens.
That particular raid group.
You only saw it for that bit. You don't remember what it was like before that raid.
You forget that I was raiding with them too.
I'm talking, like, before that. You weren't even on the server. You didn't. You weren't.
We can argue about later.
That's great. All right, let's move this forward because I'll just keep laughing.
Anyway,
awkward.
I hated the idea of man, like, oh, do you have this add-on installed? I hate it. Especially because, and one of the reasons why I hate it is because there's always that one time when you're ready to go and everybody is ready to go, and then there's one guy who's like, oh, wait a minute, I need to configure my add-on. And I was like, come on, there's between 9 and 24 to 44 other people waiting on you.
I don't know. It's such a downfall. And
yeah, because the other side of that is things like raid mechanics that have hardcore gear checks that are hard coded by the developers. That like if they don't have X amount of health or damage that they can do, they will fail, period. There is no way around it. There's 2 raid mechanics I can think of off of the top of my head where it was like there was no amount of skill that would overcome that. It was a hardcore gear check. Either gear was there or it wasn't. If it wasn't there, you died. No way around it.
Like in the new expansion for Final Fantasy, there's a raid called Alexander that's out right now, and Alexander has 2 modes. There's a normal, which is story, which they've labeled story mode. They just call it normal, but it's by the developers, so that people that are more casual just want to play the game for the story have a way of running it. But then Savage mode is what it would be compared to the last raid, which was Bahamut, or the Binding Coil of Bahamut, and there's only 56 guilds that have cleared Savage. The third and fourth boss. So the third wing of Alexander is really, really tough, and it's not so much a mechanic thing. It's just tough because Final Fantasy tends to make their bosses a little on the hard side. So it forces you to think and work together as a guild. And watching some of the clear. So when people clear, like I sent you guys the video of Elysium clearing the 4th floor of Alexander Savage mode, and that pull was crazy, and for them to scream like that was well deserved. So, no DPS meters, no threat meters. So they have threat things built into the game, but there's no DPS meters either. So kind of like you have to kind of be on your game for that.
Yeah, and that's I think I mentioned before, like if my friend, like I don't mind overgearing encounters to help my friends get through it, as long as they're putting in this is where I get to be all judgmental. As long as I judge them to be putting in sufficient amount of time. So we had 2 other quick thoughts, or actually just one other. Forced downtime for social interaction was one of the things that was thrown out there to encourage social interaction. This is for combat encounters. I haven't ran into any of those in a long time. But I am against the idea of, maybe it's just the wording of it, forced downtime. I hate the idea of logging into a computer and staring at a screen. Even though I'm being social with other people, I can be social and doing stuff. I would much rather be doing that.
So, no, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't like games telling me what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. They can fuck off.
We're running kind of low on time, and we have just a little bit more to cover before we turn it over to questions. So, Flatus, you want to force the downtime, and then I'm going to turn it over to the next thing.
Sure. I don't like it. I don't like being forced to not be able to play my game that I pay monthly for. So give me stuff to do, and I will go do it. Don't make me force me to have downtime. I don't. Yeah, I don't. That's just. I want to play my game. I got nothing else.
I'm gonna skip over this other one because I think we've covered it. And maybe I'm putting you guys on the spot if you haven't really thought about it. But how do we support social structures from the small, I'm talking like the 5-man groups, to the medium, which is your 10-man group, to the large, which is like your 20 to 25-man, depending on how big your raid comp is, all the way up to the huge, which is like your 40-man raid, 45-man raids, and bigger. I think that Warcraft has made some great steps in those directions with their flex rating. And then they extended their flex rating into heroic mode. So there's normal and heroic, which is not hard capped on numbers. Like you can bring from 10 to 25. It's like if your friends can come, bring them. And then I'm going to throw out 2 other MMOs that I've already talked about. EVE Online does great group support all the way down from the small to the huge to, ultra huge. And Guild Wars 2 does that too, because there are objectives that a 5-man team can accomplish in World versus World, that a 10-man team can accomplish in World versus World, all the way till you've got like the huge balls are rolling around there. And if you know how to use each of those different size groups, it's really great.
I would say, based on what I see in certain games, and like WoW, and you're right, WoW has done a pretty good job with supporting this from small to larger groups. I think a lot of it has to do with how you structure your content, but make it meaningful, like make you want to group with people. I would say, like in Final, and I'll use Final Fantasy XIV as an example for this one. I'm trying not to, but because Kay can kind of see as she's leveling, she's doing these dungeons, and she also has the trials. One of the thing in Final Fantasy is that you have dungeons, right? So that's 4-man content. You have the trials, which is the 8-man content, and then you have your raids, which is 8-man content, and then you have the larger raids, 24-man. So keeping that,
does it have? And see, and I think that's where a lot of traditional MMOs, that's where they start to I don't know, they don't feel well for the groups of like have you ever been in a guild of over 100 people that are all active and are all logging on? And we've had drama when we had 2 raid teams, right? You had an A team and a B team, and our A team was supposed to be our progression team. And it was like, well, I didn't get into the, I didn't get into the hardcore A team, and that's what I really wanted. And, like we couldn't all do activities together except World PvP and then later on World versus World.
yeah, I could see that. Final Fantasy breaks it down all further, where you have guilds. Remember how we've always discussed, like, oh, that'd be interesting, like being in more than one guild or some sort of thing. Well, Final Fantasy has things what's called your free company, which is your guild, and then you have link shells, which are groups you can join. So let's say if you wanted to be in a hunt link shell that ran around the world and killed all the boss mobs, you can do that. You can find you can easily like have these links you can join, and they're kind of like guilds, but they're like social groups you can kind of join and that are in the same interests. Like I love doing crafting, right? And like I can join a crafting social link, and then we can discuss like, hey, do you have this mat? I need this to level up or create this one thing for my and yeah, people have it. You have trading social links. Like I think that's one of the cooler things where you can sit there and join all these social links and then talk to people that you're interested in talking to with different things that may not fit your guild, but fits like something personal you like to do. So you'll always find something to do, but you just have to have the social aspect put in. So
I really think Tamlin would like it if he'd just give it another try.
Oh, she's batting the eyes.
I might. We'll see. My voice is starting to go out.
Mine too.
All right.
I Minecraft or Final Fantasy.
I feel like I'm being given an ultimatum.
Feel like.
All right. Let's turn over to some Q&A.
Sure. Do you want me to read the question so you can save your voice?
Sure.
Hopefully I don't go robot. Let's see if we can do this. All right. Question number 1. Does automatic voice interaction make you more or less inclined to interact with other players?
Less.
I just won't talk.
Yeah.
Seriously, I talk to people I know or I type. I don't even answer the phone. My parents will call, my brother will call. I'll let it go to voicemail and I'll send them a text back. Don't force me to
call
talk.
Me.
Don't, because I won't. Period. That's it. I get all of the talking done I want on the podcast right here, right now. This is a week's worth of words.
He's really serious. He doesn't talk to me that much either. Seriously.
For me, it's more of a I'll listen and I'll judge based on the conversation and how they're interacting with each other. If it's volatile, like everyone's just cursing at each other and cracking like really mean, hurtful, I'm out. I'll just play the game. But if it's just like ha ha ha, like let's like hey, you know, we're grouping over here. Let's like if they're making like wise decisions and they're keeping it lighthearted and jokey, yeah, I'll join in. Like it just depends. Like I'll just choose who I want to interact with and who I don't. Next question is, when do you think we'll receive Request Next news? I do not work for Daybreak Games. No one on the podcast works for Daybreak Games. Tweet at Daybreak Games.
I am so glad he answered that question for us.
Yeah. That's the best I can do. Guys, if we had any news, this would be the source for you guys. Like we would not like trust me. There's a reason why we were talking about all things online gaming versus EverQuest Next, because sometimes there's not news. And the last bit of news we got is that they started internal testing, which is good. And if you didn't know that, they are starting internal testing, which means the game is alive and they're playing it internally. So that's the last bit of news we got. And until we get anything else, we will talk about other things and other games. And that's all I can say right now. But if you want to stay up, follow EverQuest Next on Twitter, and that's at EverQuest Next, and then you can follow at Daybreak Games if you absolutely need to be on the ball with their news. The next question is that's just double the question. All right, so unless I missed one. Nope, I think that's it. I think those were the only 2 questions we had. If we missed any questions in chat, I'm sorry. I think we got them all. There's only 2. All right, so next week, episode 73 will be part 2 of Social Side of MMOs. And
that's looking at mechanics outside of raiding and dungeoning.
Yep.
And I will throw out there that probably looking outside of World versus World or EVE Online Inner Alliance Warfare or, you know.
Yeah. I will say this while you guys are here. Please do us a favor if you've not done so. Follow us here at twitch.tv /EverCast_show. If you would like, please follow us at Twitter at EverCast_show. We have a YouTube page, the EverCast Show on YouTube.
We have a YouTube page at EverCast.
Yeah.
You broke up.
It's EverCast Show. Just do it.
Yeah, just go to YouTube and then at the top you put EverCast and we're there at the top.
Really? We probably our website, evercastshow.com. Probably we should have all the social links there.
It does?
It does. So just go to evercastshow.com and you'll find all our links and where to find us. And I will promise I will probably set up my email sometime this week, so if you want to email us directly, you can do that. You can email the show at contact@evercastshow.com, and thank you all for being here for episode 72, and I'm going to ask everyone to do a favor for us, if you would please find it in your heart. If you have iTunes, open up iTunes, find EverCast Show on iTunes, and leave us a rating. Rate us. That helps us be seen. I don't know if you know how iTunes reviews work, but if you didn't like our show, leave us a 1-star and leave us a comment how we can make the show better. If you like us, leave us a 5-star and tell us what we're doing right and what we can do more of. And then more people will find us and more people will come watch. So thank you all, and we'll camp us out in 5.
Hold on.
Oh,
I found.
We've got 2 more questions.
Yeah, I found a question from
Sweet
Neuro.
mercy.
Is it possible to play a sandbox MMO or a multiplayer game without being social? And the answer to that is yes, because I've often done it. The second part of that question is, why would you want to? Because that was why I kind of started the question, the whole segment out on, we could play solo player games because they're out there and they're really, really good. And they're a new, innovative form of art that the world has never seen before. And I'm like a humanities major, and I think this is huge and wonderful, and it changes art, and it's significant and historical, blah, 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 blah. But if they're solo, I don't play them because I want that social part, even if I don't talk, even if I'm just typing back and forth between people.
I play sandbox style MMOs all the time, and I'm not social. I play not sandbox MMOs all the time, and I'm still not social. It's just not my nature to be social to a computer screen. And it's not that I have anything against it, it's just not me. Sure, I still have forged friendships with people over the internet, people that I had at the time never met in person, and now have met these people in person, and remain friends with them, even though they have long since quit video games. But it's just not normal for me. As for the preferring small group raid instances, more or less than open world events where everyone is an allied participant, I don't really think I've ever played video games like that. That it wasn't PvP. So I don't really think I can answer that question.
To answer it, yes, I have played a sandbox style MMO or a multiplayer game without I've played game. My robot.
Mr. Roboto.
Is that better? Am I not a robot now? All right. All right. Yes, sandbox MMOs, multiplayer without being social. Yes, I've done it. If you have a console, it's easy. If you have a PC, it's also as easy. And to all, do you prefer small group raid instances more or less than open world events? I like both. I do enjoy both.
That is a really interesting question because sometimes I love huge, massive groups, and sometimes I like the more intimate experience of just a few friends doing something. It really depends on the mood I'm in, I'd say. Because over the last couple of days, I've just wanted to be in larger and larger events that are taking place. But generally, I prefer the smaller dynamic where I'm really familiar with a small group of people that are doing content and activities together.
Yeah. All right. No more questions. Looking at chat. Give them 30 seconds. Probably less. I'm going to camp. I'm going to start camping. If I see a question, I'll answer real quick, but I'm going to start camping. Camping now. I'm probably a robot. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will see you all next week for part 2. And pay attention to our Twitter for more questions this week. Thank you all, and we